Good afternoon from Yummy B TV. Wishing you all well, sending plenty of love your way as usual. Now, first things first, sorry about the live last night. Not that too many of you were complaining, but I seem to have gone the whole hour being hyped up and gassed on certain messages and feeling like I've been judged incorrectly by only a limited few. And it seems like I went into one. I never even got to answer certain of the comments, and it's very unlike me, which is why the reason why I took it down as a respect thing. Though many of you saying that I was talking a lot of sense. Golden Benny Yummy. But today, we continue with the greatest warlord series of some of those men that I partnered or, met along those years in the category A's amongst the other parts of the prison system as well. And today we talk about a man you've been asking me about for quite some time, and mentioning loads of my stories, and it is H, Big H, from Junction. I'm talking Herman Howe, right? Who goes down as one of the most feared men that I ever met in that system, right? Now, we'll get round to his relationship with Tate because they were really, really close, right? And really, I got to know Tate really properly through Herman Howe H. Now, me and H were powerlifting partners for a number of years. He was 80 kilos. He was about 6'4" or 5'11", no, about 6'4". Dark. He was only about 80 kilos, but he could deadlift about 300, bench about 160, and squat about 250 in that. So he was a champion powerlifting gold badge holder, just like myself. Probably one of the greatest physiques that I ever saw in the prison system. His body was like Terminator. It was kind of athletic, made for sprinting, like Linford Christie-like, but with all the mass in the right places. His back was absolutely disgusting. When I say disgusting, I'm talking about a back that would be made for magazines, and that was on a prison diet. So I know from the crack of dawn and when, the game first started, so to speak, in my institutional stay. Now, the stories we get first before we get to Patrick's Tate was a brief outline on what kind of man Herman was, if he doesn't mind me saying, and I don't see the harm in sharing my relationship with him and what I witnessed and what I saw over a long period of time. Now, the thing that happened in the Cat A's in story one, where there was a mix-up, right? I told this story on TikTok in full. I won't go into it in detail up here. But way back in the day, he turns up in a category A prison, and there are 2 or 3 others there. And there's a rumor going around that jail that someone called H isn't quite right, meaning that, there's a smell around him that he might be a wrong un and that kind of stuff, right? Now, they didn't seem to realise at first that they got the wrong H, that they were in fact talking about another H who was on another wing, right, called Hector Harvey, who was meant to be doing robberies, but with the police with him, and him setting up criminals and that kind of stuff, right? I think it's in crime books and all that. So they got the wrong H, and he got my H, Herman Howe, got the whispers while he was in the gym. And a man from East London, a well-known man, another living legend, sadly passed away, confronted H and said to him, listen, we're hearing that you're this and you're that and all that. And H was like looking and thinking, someone else just whispered that in my ear. What are you talking about? You can't be talking about me. I haven't got no codes. I've never worked with the police. What are you talking to? So I said, yeah, we're all talking to you. So they tried to surround him, and H said, what do you want to know? And Prince said, yeah, I want to know. And H goes, well, get ready then. And he started to undo his belt, Prince, right? As he was undoing his bodybuilding belt to take it off to have the row, H went bang and put him to sleep. It was good night, Vienna, right? Now, they apologised for the mistake later on, and this is facts, right? This is, sorry, mate, we got the wrong H. No one likes to be called things that they're not in this prison moral code of the street stuff and that kind of thing. And they invited him over for a drink from his wing to go over to their wing later on evening association. When H turned up there, they gave him a little drink and all that. H was probably bowling over there thinking, what have you got for me now, after, trying to disrespect me. really thinking, probably we might have been thinking that I just knocked you out, and were they going to take that as a disrespect or just allow it? I wouldn't really have gone over there, to be perfectly honest, but hey, H was a bit badder than me, so to speak. So H was sitting there. They said, yeah, wait in the room and all that. And another geezer came through, right? We're not calling no names up here. And they threw a bucket of hot cooking oil over my mate H, right? H came running out the cell because obviously he's scalded, he's burning, he's got wounds everywhere. He run to the shower, poured the cold water over him, right, to ease up the pain and all that. Hardly any screams from him, right? And there was serious injuries. And he came running back onto the wing, and they all banged their doors locked. And of course, the screws got on it and moved him. So that story was legendary in the category A's, right? Top marks to Herman for representing something that was wholly wrong of what they said about him. But, you know, in a way, it was a living coward's move to do that to him, right? So, but no rules in the jungle. Hey, 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 hey. He lived to see another day and got over all those burns, right? Now, the story with me and him in Swellside is that, you remember when I got stabbed up, right? You asked me about this. I mentioned it on a couple of stories. Is that one of those mornings he come for me, he was like Terminator. I've never seen a man who turns up on his own and all the dealers start hiding it. Everybody starts going quiet and all that. He was a one-man army with iron bloody fist as well, right? Never really was friendly to too many people, apart from me, of course. But H used to make faces at people when they, you know, when his face changes, but really he's undoing you, mate. He's going to go through your pockets and take everything that you got, right? You know, there's all kind of people in that life. There's robbers, there's dealers, there's things. There's no difference to the outside than the inside sometimes. There's not too often you bump into men like H, right? And sometimes I believe it's all poetic justice. What goes around comes around. So that morning when he came for me, we went on the yard in Swellside, remember? And when I came out, right, there was a big crowd, and H said, yeah, come yummy and all that, right? Because we was a tag team, left and right, they used to call us. But H went into the, D wing was that way and C wing was that way on Swellside, right? He went into he called the drug dealer out, right? Part of the Turkish mafia, right? Pulled him into the room so no one, the corridor where the screws couldn't see, where we're on the exercise first thing in the morning. When I peeked in, I could see H holding his hands and pushing them down, right? But he started shouting, he says, now come, Yummy. So when I came, he was saying, Yummy, look, get that out of his pocket. And blah, 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 blah. Well, obviously, I was a robber too back then. And I took the gear out. And as we was backing off, the whole yard was surrounding us, right? Whole yard was surrounding us. There's guy, it's a liberty, mate. You lot can't get away with this. And da-da-da-da-da. We backed off, right? Got back onto our wing. Everybody came into the cell, you know. It was like going on a bit of graft on the out, really. And about 10, 15 minutes later, somebody knocked on the door and said, hey, Jammy, there's someone that wants to talk to you downstairs, right? But it was someone that we knew, so I was thinking it can't be a setup. But I said to H that day, I told this story on a couple of the bigger channels early on, and I said, hey, you going down there about at all? It could be a setup down. He goes, oh, don't worry about that. We got our fists out, man. When we got down there, everyone came charging onto the wing. He got stabbed first and his chest just stood back his chest. I saw a little bit of blood there, but obviously he went backwards a little bit, like say, oh, in front of the screws, you're not doing that kind of thing, right? So I moved a bit too late and I picked up all the stabs that day. Basically, I was dancing and that kind of stuff. But what a geezery was, because I had to go hospital, right? Got to get stitched up and that. H stitched up his little thing on his own in the normal healthcare. He didn't even go outside hospital, just went back on the wing with his big chest, right? So, but when I came back from hospital, I had to go to the prison healthcare. Do you know that I was walking funny? It was a bit, I got them all in the wrong places on the bones and that. And I said to H, it's a bit weird. He goes, don't worry about that. And he picked me up in his hands and walked me back down to the wing and came back on the wing with me and all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of soldier that he was, right? So the other one, right, which was a funny one, the other one that was a funny one, right? One time we was on the Isle of Wight and someone I knew, he could have a right row. But H was on the march during those days, and he went up to H and he said to him, he goes, H, don't try all that big chest with me, you know, and all that kind of stuff and that wrong thing. You talk too much. You don't walk up to people and start talking that wicked man talk. And H just went bang and he was clean out. And then when he got up, he said, yummy, 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 talk to him. I said, boy, I tried to tell you beforehand. And this is the kind of man that H was, right? Now, with Tate, and this is fact as well, right? Like I said, he was H's friend more than mine in reality, because they were close on the inside and apparently on the out as well. Now, what a lot of people, a couple of you mentioned it the other day and said, yeah, I mean, you remember this, right? Especially George, right? He said, when Tate used to hear that people used to get parcels in Swellside, other places, Maidstone, Albany, or Parkhurst and all that, when H and him were together, he used to find out when people were getting drugs and that, and then pass on the information to H to go and do. And H just used to turn up just as they were getting their parcel and all that, and just walk in and go bang. One time I was in the cell with him. I went into the cell, right, and we were standing there, and H was talking to him, saying, "Yeah, listen, I got phone cards and all that," and like they was dummy phone cards, to be honest. And the geezer pulled out a rap, and straight away H just knocked him clean out, and we took the whole thing, right? But Tate used to make me laugh, because he used to get all the inside information whenever he was with H, right? They were good training partners, proper friends. I think Herman was hurt when Tate died. I think even the police went up there and H turned him away. But that's how he knew, because he wasn't around when Pat got murdered outside, if you get what I mean. But it is very true that Pat, with his cheeky chappy ways, a bit like mine, and that life that we led, sadly, when bits and bobs used to come in from different areas and all that, Pat used to say to him, and now and again they would join forces together, Tate and H, and take people's things. It was a feature, it wasn't, some of the stuff said about Pat I don't agree with on the outside, but on the inside, I have to agree that during certain times Pat was deep in it as well. And we're not without the stories about robbing drug dealers in prison, I believe, I know for definite, was definitely true. And H used to turn up with his face like that, with Pat hiding around the corner and all that, and then H would just knock him out and then just come back and split it with Pat. It is absolute facts, right? So you lot true crime experts, you listening to this, it was very true. Herman Howe goes down as one of my greatest friends, one of the kindest hearted men as well. And he would never, ever leave you when he was in trouble. When I used to come unstuck in certain places, there was a time when he come bombing round and we was outnumbered, and he still stood tall for me, right? So, I put him down as loyal to the bone, right? So, yes, I pay my respects to H, Herman Howe from Clapham Junction, and there's much, much more stories as well. Sending loads of love to you. I'll be up later on as well.